Welcome to Reflect. We're twins who review and recap movies. Today, we're reviewing the next installment of the Seven Deadly Sin series, Wrath. The 2020 movie stars Michelle Williams. We do a summary of the movie, how Wrath is played in the movie, and the final thoughts about the film. Continue to subscribe to our channel and watch the other videos we have reviewed. We introduce our main character, Chastity, who's sitting in her car in the rain. She goes to look for something in the back of her car, and that's when she is attacked from behind by someone in a black hoodie who throws her in the trunk of the car. The movie then takes us back 6 weeks earlier, and we learn that Chastity is a lawyer. We are then introduced to our next main character, Xavier, who's having a fight with his girlfriend, who tells him that she is done with him. And we notice in the background that he hit a wall in an argument. The next day, Xavier goes to work and he talks with a colleague about his argument with his girlfriend. And of course, his friend gives him a cliche answer saying the best way to give up one woman is to get under another. We go back to Chastity and her friend Melanie takes her to a bar. She feels that Chastity has been working too much and need to have fun. Melanie, trying to get Chastity to loosen up, asks the guy if he thinks her friend is uncommonly beautiful, and he tells her yes. And we see that the guy is Xavier, the one that we saw in the beginning of the movie. They spend some time together, and we learn that Xavier is also a lawyer. To two go have drinks together, telling lawyer jokes and exchanging numbers at the end of their little side date. The next day, Chastity meets with her dad for his birthday. They seem to have like a strange relationship based on their convo with one another. But on a side note, her mother is played by Tina Knowles. She gets a call from Xavier to go on a date. After their date, they ends up sleeping with each other. The next morning, she leaves his room, but he stops her saying basically he doesn't want them to be just a one-time thing, saying this isn't just a quick time role. Weeks pass. Xavier and Chastity go on another date to celebrate their 1 month anniversary of being together. They found out they had the same birthday as well. What a coincidence. The next day, Chastity is busy at work when Xavier calls offering his help her with the case. But she tells him no, she'll work on it herself. And he seemed like he pissed that she rejected his offer to help. Days pass and Xavier meets up with Chastity to go shopping. And he suggests to go to the park and they end up at a boardwalk where he proposed to her out of nowhere. They didn't just get together. Like only for like a month. So of course she rejected his proposal, saying seeing it as him joking and also too soon, as anyone normally would think this. But we know he's not joking. He drops her off at home, and later he goes to throw out the ring over a bridge in the water. And I wonder how much the ring cost. Like, just because she said no to the proposal, he just decided to throw the ring out. Like, he's just ridiculous. After this idiot throws out the ring, he goes and look at Chastity through her window, giving off a creepy vibe. The next day, Chester's sitting in a restaurant when she knows her childhood friend Roger, who's played by Romeo Miller, by the way. I guess they haven't seen each other like in 7 or 8 years. As they talk to one another, we see Xavier in the background looking at the exchange between the two before going in to meet with Chastity. As she introduced the two, Roger leaves, and that's when Xavier asks her if she wants to go to a museum. She tells him she has something else in mind, and the scene switches them hooking up on the couch. After this, Xavier asks her how she knew Roger, and she tells him he was a friend when she grew up, and they used to attend karate classes together, and now he owns like a karate dojo. He asks her if they ever was a couple, and she tells him they did like for a year in high school. She stated when it had worked out because she considered herself like a city girl and him a country boy. She tells him he's not the jealous type, right? But to us, he do seem like he a jealous type. Xavier thinks Roger is still into her. They go after this. They go have a double date with Melanie, and Chastity informed her how Xavier proposed to her, and Melanie finds it cuckoo that he did this. Chastity tells her that he's passionate. That's probably why he randomly proposed to her. The next day, Xavier gets chastised or told off at work after he made a mistake on the case they was working on, so he was put off the case. Chastity calls him to come over to eat to cheer him up from the case he just placed off of. As he walks into her house, he sees her talking to Roger on the phone. At this point in the film, we see how wrath is plays a part in the couple's relationship. Back to the movie. Xavier gets upset saying how come she keeps talking to her ex on the phone. And she tells him that they only talk twice and they should set boundaries and how he shouldn't take out his anger from work onto her. He gets up from the couch. They yell back and forth. She gets fed up and tells him to leave. He gets angry and grabs her phone, throw it on the floor and stumps on it, breaking it, and then storms out the house. She goes out to drink with her colleague. The waitress comes up to her with a drink from someone at the bar, and of course it's Xavier. She asks him how he found her. He says, "Look, I guess." Then he gives her a new phone. Not amused, Chastity breaks it off with him, but he blurts out how he experienced abuse as a child. He explains how his mom laughed to her being young when having him. Grew up with an abusive grandmother. So he tells her that he needs therapy, and so they make up, and she tells him that she will not give him a third chance after this. They go back to her home, and she asks him to meet her dad. After dinner, we learn that her dad's an infamous attorney that Xavier was inspired by growing up. As Xavier goes to the bathroom, leaving Chastity to talk to her father, asking for approval of Xavier, her father says he doesn't approve, and he feels like Xavier lacks substance. Cassidy gets angry, accusing him of not accepting anything she does. I told you, like, yeah, they had like a strained relationship. The dinner ends, and on the walk to the car, her and Xavier gets into an argument over how upset she is with her father. It feels like her daddy issues are the reason she's trying to sabotage their relationship, get daddy's approval. He also tells her it's the reason she's focused more on her career over her personal life. She tells him she don't need him to be her armchair psychiatrist, and in rage, Xavier pushes her on the street and the car almost hit her in the process. I was like so shocked that it went from 0 to 100 real quick. They go to the hospital and Chastity has like a gash on her head, and Xavier comes in the hospital room acting like nothing happened, trying to get her a new shirt. She tells him how he pushed her, almost get her hit, and he tells her she fell off the curb. Like he just straight up lying at this point. She gets where his rage comes from, but it shouldn't be directed at her. She again breaks up with him, reminding him that she doesn't give a third chance. He yells at her, saying how she's already given up on them over one lousy argument. She tells him to look at himself and that he gets more angry and how he has pure wrath and how it's not her burden. He tells her he loves her and that he's going to give her some time. She reiterates that it's over and how sorry she is. We see Xavier in therapy. The therapist tells him that he has become obsessed with Chastity and how he should leave her alone. He storms out of the therapy room, gets the truth hurts him, saying he is done. Then we go back to Chastity talking to her friend, telling her that she is not about to be in an abusive relationship. I'm glad she saw the signs and she can get out now. As this is going, Xavier is watching her on his laptop. So creepy. The next morning at work, Chastity gets a package and inside is a new briefcase. She calls Xavier, informs her she got the gift, and asks him if he's bugging her apartment because she just spilled wine the other night on her briefcase and now she got a new one all of a sudden. He denies that he does, saying it's a coincidence. He's so suspicious. She tells him not to call her anymore. She goes to meet with the IT guy to see if anything has been bugged on her electronics. The tech guy tells her she does have spyware on her laptop, so she gets it scrubbed. Later that night, she talks to Roger on the phone about her trouble with guys. This leads up to her and Roger meeting up the next day, reminiscing, and in the background, sitting in a coffee shop, is Xavier stalking them. Chastity goes to pick up her dog, but the receptionist tells her that her dog has already been picked up. He shows her a text that appears to come from her phone saying a friend was going to pick up her dog. She rushes home and finds Xavier in her kitchen with her dog in his hand dangling on top of a heated stove. She reasoned with him to talk it out between them. He grabs her face, stating that she is lying, and she pepper sprayed him and ran out. She goes to her parents' house and she tells her mom that she got a restraining order against Xavier. Her mom suggests they go to church. The next day, Chastity meets up with Roger at his dojo, like a gym, and shows her some self defense moves. We are then brought back to Xavier, who is talking with the same friend we saw earlier in the movie, and he tells Xavier that stalking and breaking into Chastity's house was something a crazy person does, and I agree. I was surprised Xavier even told his friend what he did. Just goes to show you how he thought what he did was so normal. Now back to Chastity. She meets with Roger and he asks her to get back together, but neither of the two are willing to move to the other person's state to live, or like city to live, or little area that they at. We see Xavier patching up the drywall he punched earlier on in the movie and getting mad out of nowhere and repunching the wall again. Jesse goes to the fireworks with Roger, and we see Xavier watching them, once again stalking her. Chastity sees him, but when they get closer, after he disappears. Chastity and Roger go out on a walk the next day. As Roger leaves to go get her gloves from the car, Xavier walks up to Chastity, tells her how he was just in the neighborhood meeting with clients. Like, okay, yeah, right. Chastity knows he's lying, reminding him of the restraining order. He tells her that he just wants to talk to her, and Roger comes up to interrupt the conversation. He and Roger get into an argument. Xavier takes a swing at Roger, but he dodges and grabs Xavier, placing his arm behind his back, telling him to stay away from Chastity. Cops come out of nowhere and place Xavier in handcuffs as he is being dragged away, yelling how he still loves her. She meets with her dad later that night, and she tells him he was right, but he tells her it's not about being right. The next morning, Chastity gets a box with a dead animal heart inside. She speaks with Roger, and they both speak with a cop who informs her that Xavier just got out of bail. Later that day, her and Roger argue over the fact that he wants her to stay in a small town and she feels like she needs to get back to her life in the city. She meets with her mom, who gives her a gun to protect herself. Roger calls her, apologizing for their argument, trying to convince her to stay. And while they are talking, we see an angry Xavier driving in his car, listening in on their conversation. As Roger is coming out of his dojo or gym, Xavier runs him over with his car. Later that day, Chastity visits Roger in the hospital, and Roger is badly bruised up. As she visits him, she gets escorted back to her car by a cop. We are then brought back to the beginning of the movie where Chastity is thrown into the trunk of her car by Xavier. As she wakes up from being unconscious, he brings her to the dojo or gym, Roger's gym. He tells her there's anger inside of him and she makes it better. But he also blames her for his wrath. At the same time this is happening, her parents are worried because she hasn't come to their place yet, so they call the cops. Back to Chastity. She tells him that he is not beyond redemption. She asks him to go back to therapy and how she would help him. He tells her he knows she is trying to manipulate him, and she tells him to look into her eyes, and that's when she hit him on the head with a glass statue and chokes him out. She stands on top of him with a gun, stating how she got wrath too, but she also has mercy. Cops come and arrest Xavier. The next day, Roger wakes up and she tells him what happened. 6 months pass, and Chastity meets up with Xavier, who is in jail. She tells him that his anger destroyed lives, and she wasn't going to let him destroy hers. She tells him she's forgiven him so she can move on and that she would never visit him again. She meets with her father, who has a heart to heart. They both had like a little heart to heart, and that's the end of the movie. All right, just a few thoughts about the movie. I like that the main character left the relationship and didn't ignore the red flags. I like it was like a simple movie with no unanswered questions compared to the other movies in this series. I would give the movie more of a 6 compared to Lust and Envy. I think the acting wasn't that great. Maybe I didn't notice as much in the other two movies compared to Wrath. I wasn't buying the relationship between Romeo character and Michelle Williams character. Maybe it was just me, but the difference I could not get past. However, I think the movie did stick to the theme of wrath, but it lacked like the drama or entertainment compared to the other two movies, in my opinion. Overall, I would recommend people watch the movie because Wrath was shown in a creative way than I originally thought of when thinking of this scene. And I just want to thank you all so much for listening. Thank you so much to those who subscribed. Check out the other movies review, like the video, and subscribe to the channel.
Bye.
Bye.